What is it going to be? I think it's going to be open conversation. I think it's going to be me and you hanging out, which is fun. I think it's going to be topics that people need to hear about.
Yeah.
I mean, we obviously have a couple topics that we're ready to kind of roll out.
Give a few.
Mental health, CBD, student athletes. I'm excited. We're going to have fun.
All right. So, I'm not going to mark it, but we're back here on Postgrads at the Plat.
Late night edition.
Exactly. Late night edition. Not that we'll be talking about anything late night related, but
it's
Avery,
deep though.
It is. So what are we talking about?
We're talking about religion and spirituality.
Okay.
The difference is how we feel about it ourselves, right?
How they play in the sports.
Right. So I think we should start off first with the difference. What do you think the difference is between being religious and being spiritual? Or are they one and the same?
No, they're not one and the same. I think religion is I define it as like the rules, the strict rules within text and scriptures and things that are passed along. And I think religion has a bit of a cultural tie. I think the spirituality is more of the study of the message, and what's trying to be passed on. As not so much focusing on, the effects of it, but more so like what does it do for you as a person. I think religion applies to people. Spirituality applies to an individual.
I agree. I would say the same. I would say, for me, I look at spirituality as like the inward, like looking inward with yourself as an individual, and I think religion is more all-encompassing of like you gather together, you want to worship or have faith or discuss your faith together. I think it becomes more of a community.
Okay.
Whereas spiritual, I think, is very much the individual and that process of, finding what that means for you.
Which one do you think you're more of? Religious or spiritual?
I don't know. I think it's changing. I think I'm moving more towards spiritual, but
I really hope this isn't the way I'm just gonna
12 seconds later.
But no, it gives me time to think because I'm not really sure. Like I feel like my upbringing, I was neither, truthfully, and then I definitely moved more towards religion with things that I went through in college, and now I see myself in the last 6 months moving more towards spiritual and kind of dealing with like inner battles and like just thinking as an individual, what's gonna get me up in the morning.
Yeah.
But my religion I'm very strong in my religion as well. So, What about you?
I'm spiritual. I was brought up in religion. Got away from it from the time I was probably around 12. That's perfect. Just from around the time I was about to say.
Need some gospel.
It's a PG show, sir. But I was brought up in it. I want to say around the time I was 12, 13. I walked away with it, me and my mother. Quite frankly, because of the influences from people, not our own. Not to speak on spirituality, not our own feeling and journey within it. And quite frankly, around the time I was wrapping up college, and then when I got overseas, I really got into it. I found actually a couple of books in there. I played in Poland. I don't know why I just go overseas like anybody would know. But I played in Poland, and when I got to the apartment, there were like several books already in the apartment, and one of them was heavily Christian-centered, and the rest of them weren't. And to be quite frank, I really got back to my spirituality within my religion more than like the cultural aspect of it.
Yeah. I see religion, like this may seem as a negative word, but I see it as almost strict. Like you said rules, but I think it's a very strict, there's very like strict guidelines as to how you should follow and how you should express your faith and, kind of go throughout life. And I think spiritual allows you to kind of be more open with it. Yeah. And it's interesting to hear you say like, the one book you said was like heavily Catholic based or Christian based. Yeah. So I grew up, even though I wasn't necessarily believing in it in the way my mom, I guess, wanted me to, Catholic. And I definitely had a set of strict rules within my faith, in the Catholic faith. did you have a set of strict rules in your faith, and what did that look like?
Yeah.
Because I know they're all different.
So I mean, I grew up and I like faith. I feel like faith is like the middle ground between religion and spirituality. If it gets brought up in an argument. I grew up in South Philly, and anybody who knows, well, South Philly today, you go down Point Breeze and it looks like University City. So it's a little different. It's a little different. That's all I'm gonna say on it. It's a little different, and for the better in some ways, and for the worse in others. But where I grew up in South Philly around Point Breeze, I was on 24th and Reed. I went to school with nothing but Muslims. You know what I mean? I remember my elementary school, UICS. Well, my last elementary school, UICS, was like, we fasted at lunch. I remember like everybody in the lunchroom fasting.
What if you didn't want to fast?
I mean, if you weren't Muslim, then no. But
Okay.
like for the most part, you know what I mean? Like there was a lot of people who were like heavily on it, and I was one of them. And so it was strict. I mean, what does that tell you? A bunch of elementary. You can get elementary school kids to follow the rules.
I think fasting is probably the most strict at a young age.
Yeah,
you know?
that's what I'm saying.
There's rules to follow. When you're a kid, it's like sin is very different, or whatever you want to call it. So fasting is very like extreme for elementary school.
Discipline. It was so it was extreme, but then it's like, all right, well, let's acknowledge the discipline of these kids.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
kids not eating at lunch is like the worst thing that could ever happen to them, you know?
Exactly. So we would just, it definitely had its place, how I was raised. And like I said, I think that's what kind of got me away from it. Seeing different acts in it from different individuals, it kind of, I'm not gonna lie, it turned me off. And when I look back on it now, I feel like for the wrong reasons, because that had nothing, I'm not saying nothing to do with me, but it didn't always directly affect me. And quite frankly, everybody's sins or flaws, whatever you want to call them, is on them.
So you go to then, obviously you went to high school after, or middle school or whatever, and kept going and going until college.
I dropped out.
Went right to college. 6'5" already.
It popped up.
So like when you go then into an environment where people are not predominantly Muslim and have various beliefs, like we could name every religion in the book. There's ones that, there's 100, if not more. So it's like when you get into an environment then where you're the minority in the sense of your religion, like how did you feel in that environment?
It was, I was prepped for it, but it was a culture shock. I was prepped for it at Lower Marion. I went to school with predominantly Jewish kids. You know what I mean? And it was great, but it wasn't, outside of like certain holidays being taken off, it was, stuff like that. Outside of that, I'm not going to try to pronounce it because I don't want to offend anybody, but outside of that, I really didn't feel the influence as much as I felt culturally a lot of influences in the food, in certain celebrations and stuff like that. I felt it, but that was, I only went to Lower Marion for my junior and senior year of high school, so I was prepped for it there. But Villanova it was a shock. It was a shock to have pregame routines where we're praying, and everybody in the room is praying but me. Just the conversation that would naturally come up, that was naturally understood. But I liked it, and I liked it because it was the last piece of the puzzle for me. And I think that's why I said I got back into my faith and back into my spirituality and religion towards the end of college, especially afterwards, because it allowed me to understand that the religions might be different on an esoteric and a visual level, but the baseline things were
similar,
reoccurring. You know what I mean? It was similar all the way through. Be a good person.
So how did you participate in pregame prayer? Like
I just wouldn't. I just wouldn't say them. I wouldn't say them.
But you were present and
I was present.
Team, right?
I was present. For example, like we had our father, Father Rob Hagen, gave a homily before every game, and I talked about it.
You spoke highly of him, yeah.
Yeah, he's the man. He's the man, and I talked about him on my show. And
look below.
Exactly. But exactly. I planned to, but I talked about it. We had the premiere. I said, Father, one of your favorite homilies of mine is the story of the farmer whose horse fell in the well. And he says the horse falls in the well. It's a surprise horse. It gets most of the work done on the farm, and he realized I don't want him down there suffering and just dying of hydration and dehydration and starvation. So he starts throwing dirt down in the hole to kill the horse, put him in his misery. And the horse shakes the dirt off and steps up on top of it. he shakes the dirt off, he steps up on top of it, and he sees that he keeps going, he goes faster, and he realizes what the horse is doing, and he gets the horse back. And I was like, Father, you know, when you were talking about that, I felt like you were talking to me, you know, and I was like, that was something I held on to, because that's such a good, you know, thing to live by, and the way to look at trials and tribulations in life. And this is a priest. You know what I mean? Like, we really shouldn't be, by most people's standards, conversing. But to me, that's when I get away from religion. When I feel like it's a derivative factor. It's not.
It's a divide.
It's not used to bring people together. And what I got to see through Lower Marion those 2 years, and through Villanova those 4 years, was the baseline messages are the same. So just be a good person. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I agree with you completely. I think at the end of the day, it's about our faith, you know,
Exactly.
and like what we believe in, what, you know, gets us up in the morning, all those things. So what do you say to people that, like, I feel like people question religion, especially, not necessarily spirituality, but religion especially, and be like, oh, you just believe in God because, like, you just need to. Like, you'll just, you know what I mean? Like, you just have to, because if you don't, then, like, you won't be able to go on or whatever. Like, how do you feel about the idea that people just have faith or practice a religion because they feel like they have to?
I think that's where the spirituality plays into it. I think at that point, it's on the individual. To me, it doesn't have anything to do with you. I think, obviously, you know, as someone who is spiritual, I believe in God, but, you know, I've heard people call it the universe, people just refer to it as life, whatever that ultimate energy or being is, you know, you call it what you want. But I think that's on the individual. You know, I think that's why I have no problem with people being private about their religion, because it's like, that's between you and God. Or if you don't, that's between you and you. You know what I mean? But I don't think that someone should practice religion because it's forced upon them. I don't think anything that intimate should ever be, you know.
Right.
What about you?
So, I mean, I don't know.
I'm an interview. You can just ask all the damn questions.
It intrigues me, like, what you think about this stuff. But I don't know. I think I agree with you. I think you have people that go to church every Sunday, right?
Yeah.
And they tell everyone they go to church every Sunday, and, you know, they have brunch or whatever after with their family, and it's this big ordeal, right? Every Sunday they do that. And then these people in no way live in the image of God. You know, they in no way.
And that's what kind of got me away from it initially. Kind of seeing the human side of these religious figures. But at the end of the day, like I said, that's between y'all. It ain't got nothing to do with me. You know what I mean? I think that's what people. I will take a stance on that. I don't think that's really up for debate. I think people should practice a bit more of the idea of, listen, that's between you and you. You know, because at the end of the day, it's like, and then maybe I'm stepping on some toes here, but it's like, if you're a Christian and I'm Muslim, but yet we still feed off of this same spiritual energy, who the hell is to say what to call God? You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, it's on the individual.
And I actually went to church, not to brag, I'm not one of those. I went to church this weekend. I hadn't been back in a while, and Pastor Brian. Again. Pastor Brian.
What's the first thing I'm about to say? Cue the lights. Hold on.
We're still here.
I'm
crying.
Oh my God. Yo, it's always, hold up. Oh, we back. All right, cool. I'm looking for the key. We need it. All right. Pastor Brian
talked about how there's people in the world that he knows that are so kind. Like, he does a lot of mission trips. They're so kind, they're so giving, loving, all of these things, right? And they don't know God. You know, they never had an upbringing that talked about some type of God or spirituality or anything. They just live a life of kindness, and they live in the image of God without even knowing God. So I think, like you said, it really is just a matter of, like, how you live your life and, like, how you feel about your own relationship with whatever spiritual being, religious person, figure, whatever it may be. Because at the end of the day, like, it does become a figure, you know, it does become something that, we talk to and we pray to, and everyone has a relationship, but it's different for everyone. So I think it's important, first and foremost, to understand that. Like, you don't need to go to church. You don't need to tell people you're religious. You don't need to. And if you want to tell people, great. I mean, I have believer in my Instagram bio. So, you know, and I'm proud of that. And I know that I know my relationship with God, so I feel okay to have that. But I feel sometimes people embellish on their religion and tell everyone and do all these things. So
yeah, I mean, it's something to be proud of. It's not something to boast about.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
Do you see like the effect of it?
Oh, well, sorry. It's something to boast about if you feel like it's done wonders for you.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you know if you're genuine or not, right?
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, you gotta look yourself in the mirror and be like,
you gotta pray.
Right. you gotta talk to God, and He gonna talk back.
Exactly.
So. But do you feel like being spiritual and having the upbringing you did?
I don't like to keep getting dark on certain topics. Hold on, but I got the keys ready. Go ahead.
God's talking to us. No, having the upbringing you did, do you think it helped you in sports? Like when you had tough times, or when your team lost 2 games in a row, not that they did many times, luckily with you. Things like that. Like, do you feel like as an athlete, having faith is important?
I'm sorry, I'm not gonna let this rock. We never lost 2 games in a row.
Okay. As I said, probably didn't happen a lot.
I got it on, so like if I don't say that, it's come on.
You're good.
All right. At first, no, and I'm not gonna lie. I think that was another reason why I got back to it. I had felt at Villanova, just being in college, you know, it's a difficult time. It's a transitional time, and I didn't feel like I was able to. I look at God or life, whatever you want to call it, it's infinite energy, and praying and living by certain guidelines that you feel like you should live by, almost creates a flow, you know, within your life. And for me personally, like I know, like, you know, when I get down on my knees and pray, I get up, I feel like a high almost, like you feel like empowered. That's the word.
Yeah.
I stopped feeling that. I stopped feeling that completely, and I started to feel lost. And that's when it was crazy. As I got back to my faith, I was empowered in that way, and I was disciplined. I was disciplined in the way that I need. Exactly. I was disciplined in the way that I needed to be disciplined. Or I felt as though I needed to be disciplined, and free in the ways I felt I needed to be free. I started to play better, you know. But like I said, that wasn't until the end of Villanova, and quite frankly, really like overseas.
Yeah. I think it's interesting too, like you talked about how you kind of lost it for a second, right? You lost faith, you lost your desire, you know, to get on your knees and speak to whomever. So I think it's important to highlight too, like there's 2 different kind of paths that people can take when something bad happens. You can either deepen in your faith, or you can lose it altogether. Yeah. And both, and I understand completely, you know? And I think,
most definitely.
I think we're very hard on ourselves as human beings. Like when you go through tough times, it's not always easy to be like, it happens for a reason. God's with me, you know? Like there are times that you go through trials where it's like, why? Especially with like very traumatic, or something happens to your family, or something just doesn't go the way you saw it going, you know? I think it's very easy as a human being to just be like, well, God can't be real, or why would He allow this to happen? Or, you know, you ask all those questions. But I think when you mature in your faith, and when you, like you said, you have a relationship as an individual with whomever you believe in, or whatever you believe in, I think then that's when the faith deepens. But I think that comes with time.
Facts. I mean, I know for me personally, like around the time of my injury, I felt something. You know what I mean? Like I felt, you know, like I'm you know, this is, you know what I mean? Like I'm dead serious about this. And I remember the night I got hurt. I told my mother, I was like, I need you to just pray for me. You know what I mean? I was like, I feel like, you know, I remember when I was overseas, I asked her to do it. She sent me a voice message back. I listened to it every day over there. You know, she was talking about prayer and things like that. I was like, I feel like just something's around me. And I was like, I feel like a tough time is kind of coming up. And you know, as sure as the sky is blue, like if summer was hell. You know what I mean? And there was a few times where I found myself like, I need you, like, like please, like some type of light. Like I just needed to get a little brighter. Like just let me know. Like flicker twice. You know, I was like in Stranger Things, like flicker twice if you want it. And eventually it did. But it, you know, it was it definitely is something that is a practice to, you know, stay in.
Yeah, I think it's hard though too, like on the flip side, without those tough times to really like appreciate your faith and to really look at it in the way that we do. Like if life is sweet, you know. People don't pray as much when life is sweet and everything's going well. You know, you might say, oh, thank you God for this, right? But every day it's not as much, you're not as deep in your thought with God or talking to him or whatever, maybe him or her, whatever you believe. So I think it's important too to realize that like during the tough times, that is an important time to really, like you said, deepen your faith. And you know, it might take a month, 2 months, 3 months, years until like you see some type of light, and that is the truth for a lot of people. But I also believe
that's what faith is.
Yeah, for sure. And I question, like, people always have it worse, right? Like, we both live a pretty decent life, I would say. We're both pretty happy individuals, whatever happy means, you know, fulfilled in different ways. So there are other people in this world, not even on this, like, in different continents, that live these like treacherous lives. And they're the most
all the way through.
Right, and they're the most faithful people ever. You know, like they have the utmost faith in God and in their belief that they have a relationship, and that like someday, regardless if they get out of their like pain or whatever, like it doesn't even matter, you know, because there is something like else than this. So yeah, I think life's hard, and I think faith in a lot of ways, like I said, is it something we need to believe in? Maybe, in a way. Like, it is nice, obviously, to, like, hope, you know? And I think faith in a lot of ways is hope. But, you know, it's different for everyone, so.
I feel you.
Yeah.
I feel you. It's funny, I was watching something about Dick Gregory, of all people. He was talking about how hope is terrible.
Yeah.
And I was like, to hear that at first, like, what the hell? Like, but what he was saying, he was like, no. You know what I mean? I think that's when you get to a certain point in your religion or spirituality, or you want to call it, your faith, when you start to know, it takes a pivot. I got a question for you. It was something we spoke about recently. I was saying that, you know, as of late, you don't see too many people trending towards religion as much as they do spirituality. And for some people, that frustrates the hell out of them. For example, I saw a post, and it was like the Joan with Ralph. You know how Ralph is like looking out the window like, what the hell is going on out there? From Ed, and Nettie, they had Ralph like draped up like Jesus. And it was like, they really out here calling me the universe. You know, and all these people, we spoke about people like trending towards spirituality and astrology and things like that. And I said, I gotta be honest, I think that's why I don't call myself super religious, because there are certain things that I'm open to. Like Buddhism and things like that, certain practices and meditation that, quite frankly, might not be brought up in the most religious texts. But for me to deny the benefits of it would be like asinine. Do you feel the same way, like where people are trying to kind of trending towards almost a hybrid between their religion and like a spiritual practice? Or?
For sure. I think, honestly, this is... On Twitter, I follow the Dalai Lama, and like, listen, he tweets every day, like he drops bars, like it's insane. And he tweeted the other day, kindness is my religion. And as somebody who meditates, like I'm speaking of the Dalai Lama, obviously meditates, is this figure of meditation. He's the perfect example of like blending it and just understanding that you can be religious, but also have this spiritual connection through meditation, through whatever that, astrology, whatever that may be. And I think it's hard to just be one thing, right? Like, as humans, we're so complex. So to say to somebody, just be this, just believe in this is all you got.
It's like nothing else in our world works like that. You don't just eat one thing, you don't just drink one thing.
So how are you gonna just believe? You know, like,
even not to your character, not even just one person. You're something different to everybody you meet. You know, that's a trippy thought, but it's like, it's no, the idea of like you said, just fit in this mold. It's like, that's not human.
I think it's just what people fit, what fits for them, you know, like, I think that's different for everyone. I think some people truthfully have a religion that they are very in tune with, and that's what they believe, and they don't need astrology, or they don't need meditation, or they don't need whatever. But then there's some people who benefit from it, you know, like are really connected to their sign, or, you know, who uses it for an excuse for everything.
I weigh on my Libra scale.
Yeah, there you go. I'm a Libra, relax. It's like, okay.
I've never said
I
that.
know.
I was about to say, it took me a minute.
I'm just saying, like,
Yo,
I feel like
I'm
people
not
use
one of
their
those
signs
people.
sometimes, like, oh, I'm mad today. Like,
Oh yeah,
it's,
no.
What is it, the moon
I
stuff?
hate that.
I love it. I wish I knew more.
I'm saying I hate that people blame it on, like, oh God, I hit such and such a car. What a Scorpio thing to do. Like, no, you're a bad driver. Like, it's nothing to do when you were born.
Right. Yeah. But
no,
again, it's something that people kind of way fall on and they believe in, and they think, you know, the universe spins a certain way because they're a Virgo or because they're whatever. So, you know.
Yeah. So I gotta say this. I can't. I mean, this is opinionated. I hate this. We're past the age of politically correct, man. Trump's in office. Like, come on. So this, I'm my opinion. Exactly. I'm here all week.
Right.
But no, my opinion on this of people who are anti-astrology. First of all, I get it. People, especially like who are very linear in their religion, I understand why you would dispel that. No pun intended. But I will say this. I don't understand how there's no room for the scientific evidence of it. At the end of the day, for example, you ever tore anything? You ever had surgery?
What?
You ever tore anything? You ever had surgery?
No.
All right, well, I had surgery, and anybody else who has surgery will tell you, if it's about to rain, you feel it. People who have had, like,
I have heard that.
yeah, they be like, oh my God, my knees hurt.
Yeah.
Blah. It might be that inflammation.
It can rain.
Exactly.
Make sure.
But something about having a wound, it aches. You know, that's because of the atmospheric pressure that condenses on you. You know what I mean? It's pretty scientific when you get down to it.
Yeah.
But bottom line, if something on that level can affect something down here, what the hell makes you think something further than that won't affect you deeper? Like the way like the moon affects the ocean. We're what, like 70% water or something like that? It's something crazy.
Yeah.
We're like a crazy amount of water.
Yeah. And
It's
we're
like,
getting even more now that the glaciers are melting.
Exactly.
Global warming.
Exactly. You'll be here all week too.
Right.
But like,
that should be another. We should definitely talk about global warming.
what?
But go ahead.
Oh, just climate in general.
Not that we're
I'm all
scientists.
for it. I'm all for it.
No, I agree. I think like it's hard. How do you say that there's no scientific aspect about our lives and how we live, right? Like with, like you said, and like I said, global warming, like things that just happen around every day, like with your knee, with different things, like to just say that there's no scientific backing to why things happen, I think is just, I don't want to say ignorant because that sounds really negative, but it's just like, you know, you're choosing not to acknowledge something that is clearly there. Yeah, and astrology, like you said, it's definitely difficult for some people.
Yeah.
But I also think there's a lot of truth in it. And like our world, as we are humans complex, our world is complex. Like, the earth itself is a floating object. Like, you know, like
wow, that's crazy.
when you really think about, like, I get stuck in the Netflix documentaries about, I'm an earth sign, so like, I'm an earth sign. We do like a disco ball that like drops at night. So like I appreciate the earth and I like to walk barefoot and grounding and weird, whatever. But I just think like there's so many we'll just exit that out, okay? But anyway.
Go ahead.
But like I just think there's just so much to our planet. And like there are other things. What is it? Area 51? 51, right?
Yeah.
Area 51. You're gonna storm it, you know? I'm with them. It's like, what is out there? Like, what is going on? You know, like there's something that we don't know. And to understand that you don't know everything is the key of life, right? Like, we don't know everything. We never will. Like, it's just not possible. And like, you shouldn't want to know everything. Then it's like, all right, what's life for? You know?
Exactly. Like, life is about exploring and figuring things out. I mean, you think about where we were as cavemen versus where we are now. Like, it would be crazy to think that we could even reach that. You know what I mean? It's crazy thoughts. You ever seen Doctor Strange?
No.
You have to watch Doctor Strange.
What's that on?
It's a Marvel movie.
Oh, I'm not into Marvel.
No, I'm saying, but it's one of those things that even if you aren't into superhero movies, you'll appreciate it because they talk about the universe in a very like for example, there's this.
I'm
scene.
just not about the.
Yeah. No. It's not like that. It's pretty. They do a good job like making like real movies, but there's a part where she's talking to him, you know, in the point like speaking like nobody knows everything. She showed him a graph. He was a doctor, very arrogant dude, and she shows him a graph of your skeleton. He was like an X-ray, and then she shows him another one. Oh damn, car had it.
Another one.
I keep misplacing the keys.
Phone light.
No.
Boom, boom, boom.
Speaking of
spotlight.
boom, boom, boom. All right, so Then she shows him a map of like your arteries and your veins, and he got mad, and she was like, all of these maps were drawn by somebody who could see in part, but not in whole. Yeah, and then sent him like on a trip. She touched his third eye. So you gotta watch it. You gotta watch it. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. It's not just like
getting weird. Okay.
Yeah, but it is. But I'm just saying. I had to bring that up when you said the idea that you're not gonna know everything. You know, it's like you might be the in the top of your religion. You know what I mean? You might be the Pope. You could be the Pope, but then you
know
could
the
go,
whole Bible.
Exactly. But then you could go and have a conversation with someone who is very high up in Islam or very high up in Judaism, and it's like, you know, very high up in Buddhism, and it's like y'all both have this spiritual power. Right. You know what I mean? So I think it's safe to just acknowledge that it's an individual experience.
Yeah, and we know nothing, and that's okay. Yeah. I know one thing.
What?
That we know nothing.
Hey. No. So like, I actually have this on my phone just to be a smart ass when it comes up. But like when people say something weird, it's funny you brought up Area 51. So people say something wild, I just hit the, oh, don't do this to me. Don't do this to me.
We'll play it. We'll play it.
No.
Oh. I hate that you have that on your
somebody
phone.
say something stupid.
Like you have that downloaded.
Like the boy from The Wire. As the lights go on, we're done.
All right.
That was like 30 minutes. Holy shit, it's 31.